Hello and welcome back to Genshin Impact. Audible. Felt like I had to mention that little tidbit there in case you might think that this is just another Genshin Impact stream. But no, it's an Audible stream. It has been a while. Anyway, I need to spend my resin first. So although it is audible, you can listen to me fighting the whale. I mean the narwhal. Okay. I'll use Gaming. We have 2 healers. 3 healers? Well, technically I'm a healer, I just heal myself.
Yeah, やるなら俺を狙え。
The hell is even this party? But this thing is actually killing us. C6 Bennett. Oh, I see. There's way too much overload. got destroyed before it hit the floor. Nice. Anyway, I need to say time to eat and oh shit. Oh well, whatever. Anyway, the agenda for today is to read through Remuria. Because, you know, the upcoming patch 4.6 is all about Remuria. And I should get acquainted, well, better acquainted with Remuria. Leyline Overflow, oh nice. Anyway, let's go to somewhere preferably in here. Oh, there's little aquarium thingies. Oh, there's one right there. Alright, let's head over there. We'll read our book there. I know, I could read it at the Kreutz Institute. Let's do that. Tower of Ipsissimus. Guess I can't really go there. So let's go here. Narcissus Cruise Odo. Oh, a viewpoint. Oh, nice. The world's amniotic fluid. Notes. Pan. Pan. That which lies beneath the great sea. The purpose of this line in the ritual scripture is to forsake the self and sink into the abyss, and in the abyss to welcome rebirth as a holy infant. The origin of this is a tragedy of unknown provenance that has been passed down by persons unknown to this day. Said play is called Ajax, or Aias. He was the second strongest warrior in his alliance. Lies beneath the great sea is itself an interesting phrase. It comes from ancient Sumeru texts and should be read as Narayana, which also means primordial human. Narayana. I see. This too is my goal, for not all that comes from beyond may be as one that descends. That title belongs only to wills that can rival an entire world, Descenders. That is what I seek, the way to become just such a will. One that can protect the world, sustain the world, destroy the world, and create the world. He seeks the power of a Descender. And obviously it's Roranes. Notes. To exercise itself is not to die, but rather to die before death. That way, there is no life to be ended. Thus may one achieve eternity. This step is vital, for by this, may one avoid receiving a vision by some error. To receive a vision to sell oneself to the fate of this world. To hire Marmine. And to evermore lose the chance to walk the correct path. Ah. So the vision's a curse, according to this guy. There's no seats here, I mean, it kind of broke. So, I guess I'll just stand here. The doomsday clock is destroyed. Anyway, let's begin. Archive. Alright. Books. I don't think I have all the books. Still. Fall of the Fated Castle. Time Tracker. Paraneri. Oh yeah, this will be pretty. This book's pretty important. Paraneri. Toki Alley Tales. Oh boy, I still don't have Volume 1 completely. I'll look for the pages. 1,000 Nights. That probably doesn't matter. The History and the Decline and Fall of Remuria. Yeah, I gotta read that. Fables de Fontaine, not really. Two Musketeers. I gotta read this as well. Anyway, let's start with the Fall of Remuria. History of the Decline and Fall of Remuria. It is said that the great scholar Poltini wrote this epic historical work concerning the ancient Remurian civilization in the early years of the founding of Fontaine. It's all the same. It's a lot of words. Better get my water ready. Okay. The ocean gave birth to all. It also devoured everything. Legend has it that in the first era, the earliest peoples were self-supporting in their virtue, needing no laws or authorities. The envoys of the heavenly city walked the earth, and with their guidance the people enjoyed enduring peace, prosperity, and abundance from the ancient days. This heaven-blessed reign lasted countless generations until people grew tired of their inscrutable eternity. Their offspring ceased to listen to the oracles. Instead, they desired things never promised to them by the divine, trying to break free from their fate. Enraged by their behavior, heaven sent gigantic waves to smash the settlers' cities. 100 days of rain came afterward, and the roaring tides drowned all sin and arrogation. And thus were the early peoples brought to an end. When the tide receded, and the earth was revealed again, no cities nor civilizations now stood above the high waters. Survivors and the newborn alike lived amidst the forests and rivers, shorn of all knowledge and wisdom. Human lives were no different from those of wild animals on the earth or in the sea, driven on by the laws of nature, muddling through time with neither beginning nor end. Untold years passed. The throne of Gurubad was established and overturned in the far south, and the noble kindred of the east once reached the rim of the high waters, all while our ancestors remained bound by ignorance and superstition. Civilization and order were finally restored to the land named Fontaine the day the great king Remus descended upon Meropus in his golden fortuna. He taught people how to farm and raise crops in the land, and built temples and cities with giant rocks to house the people. Most importantly, it was he who spread the beauty of music and art, which differentiated humans from other living things, causing them to see themselves as masters of all things. Oh, hubris. With his immortal fleet, Remus conquered all the islands on the high waters. Even the great dragon beneath the abyssal depths submitted to his power. The Hydra Dragon? Those were the best days, since the end of earliest peoples, and eternal prosperity seemed so near at hand. You know what it is, Thanos. You know. With his immortal fleet. Oh wait, I already read that. The God King and his people indulged in the sweet dreams of carefree lives and fantasies of never-ending progress. However, the seers prophesied discord. The greatest empire will face the most utter destruction. And this is Fortuna. Thus did the God King derive the primordial plan from the 7-day rotation and the flowing winds of the sea and land, and composed a harmonious symphony of prosperity. He believed that so long as all the cities echoed with this greatest of songs, they would escape the judgment of fate and at last reach the land of eternal bliss. But thusly do the ancient writers concur. Oceans will rise, empires will fall, and the only constant is change. Oh, thank you, Thanos. Please don't click your fingers. Snap your fingers. Greatness and glory unto Remuria, and its immortal ruler, Remus, king of all under heaven, and universal Harmost. Today, the glamour and luxury of the bygone eternal city is beyond the imagination of even the most knowledgeable scholars. As you sailed past the ocean pillars, along the royal fairway to the giant port playing host to Fortuna, the imperial ship, you would have first seen a lofty tower. The Tower of Remuria was not built to receive heavenly oracles, but to guide ships traveling between islands in the high waters. It is said that the tower stood at the border of reality and dreams. Even if sailors were to be lured into slumber by sirens, they could follow the sound of the bell to break through the mist and find their way to Remuria. Continuing along the royal fairway leading to Makimos, where the brave Remurian warriors lived. The grand temples and arenas were built with giant carved rocks to commemorate the city's glory and victory. The solid and towering walls are decorated with glaze and gold, bronze and marble statues arrayed the land, and gold, spices, and specialties from the world overpiled up in the markets. Traveling through Makimos, you would arrive at Capitolium, the center of Remuria, overflowing with delightful aromas and beautiful melodies. It was a paradise for artists, where only the most outstanding intellectuals and musicians were allowed. Even among them, however, only a small fraction enjoyed the privilege of serving the God King. Here all the theaters and palaces were established in shapes most harmonious, their beams and domes adorned with the most sumptuous and intricate carvings, and centered on a golden palace of towering copper pillars. The king, resting peacefully at the heart of the palace, listened closely to every melody and every note, coming from every corner of the empire. Upon hearing any discord, the God King would correct it immediately with a pluck of his strings, bringing perfection to the symphony of his empire. To keep all the people upon the high water from destroying the symphony of universal harmony, King Remus promoted 4 humans of great capability to high post. He shared his power and authority with them, making them his partners in governance, the Harmosts, for all cities, to eliminate all discordant sounds. To spread the harmonious symphony throughout the world, he built far-reaching fairways, which conveyed the melodies as never-ending ripples from Capitolium to every corner that sat above the high waters. Yet fate's decree was not for even such as gods to defy, and to even attempt to escape destined judgment was a mortal sin. Amongst the God King's sins, the most terrible was the attempt to pass power that should have been reserved for the godly domain to humans. Thus, this power and status led to corruption and decadence, leading to violence and revolts. Such is fate's cunning, that it uses the very powers that rebel against it to its own ends. When the day of destiny arrived, Remuria, the grand immortal city, faced an inevitable end. Today, the God King's melodies played only in Capitolium, and his mighty reign has ended. Thusly, do the ancient writers concur: oceans will rise, empires will fall, and the only constant is change. He shouldn't have gave power away. Should have kept it all for himself. Because I guess King Remus was actually a divine being. Humans, in their naivety, once believed that the reign of the King Remus and his eternal city would surpass time and fate to last thousands of years, just like the giant rocks comprising the ringed ritual sites. Until that day, when the earth collapsed all at once, the tall tower was uprooted and drowned in the titanic waves alongside the Great Hall of Pillars. Until that day, when the royal fairways and temples were reduced to ruins, and the city, along with its residents, warriors, intellectuals, nobles, and even the Golden Palace, as glamorous as the shining sun, fell into a chasm of eternal darkness. That was the moment when the absurdity of their eternity finally dawned on them. Glory to our noble navigator, the ruler of rivers and seas, and the queen of all waters. May she defend the law, and may her reign be long. Peace be upon all the realms of Fontaine, and all the people under the heavens. When the royal city collapsed, the great power shattered, and the people above the high water were perched on the precipice of barbarism and annihilation. It was our noble queen who settled the conflicts between the tribes. Around the flowing springs we established cities anew, and started a world guided by laws that has endured to this day. The tragedy of Remuria occurred merely a century ago, but its history has already become concealed in legends and superstitions. This does partly come down to the fatal catastrophe that destroyed it. So ruthless and swift was the disaster that all the researchers and literature capable of passing down said knowledge now sleep beneath the waters with the Eternal City. Another key reason is the purposeful distortions created by the mysterious researchers who claim to be descendants of Remuria. My job is to extract and reproduce the true, essential shape of this magnificent ancient civilization with the universal rationality of history. In certain folklore that exists today, even the greatest of ancient scholars have been painted as soul-stealing magisters who entrapped mortal spirits within specially made magical golems, binding them into service. To be sure, the Remurians did make such terrifying golems, which to this day may be found ruined out in the wild, but this may only be blamed upon the moral degradation that came upon them in Remuria's latter days. Its people had forsaken their noble duties and embraced hedonism and debauchery, accepting the violence they inflicted on others, and thus were they also violently destroyed. Just as the ancient writers concur, oceans will rise, empires will fall, and the only constant is change. Okay. Oh, my eyes are playing tricks on me. It's like a wall of text. Yeah, my perspective is kind of skewed right now. I'm gonna have to look at something else just to fix up my perception. Oh, I don't know if you guys experience it as well, but when I see something like that, it feels like I'm zooming out, you know? And I appear infinitely small and everything seems infinitely larger. I don't know, maybe that's just me. It's still here. Fables de Fontaine, I'm not sure. I will read the Two Musketeers. Okay, a swig. So that's all we know about Remuria? Just this little book? Oh, 3 books? There's 3 books of the Two Musketeers. Oh, we already know how it ends. And well, we pretty much know the whole story. Let's check it. A series about conspiracy, revenge, and justice. An evil that took Fontaine by storm. An old man with grey hair carefully stood 6 special musket rounds on the table, looking at the brother and sister before him with his nearly blind eyes. 6 bullets. Will they suffice? The old man asked. They will, said the brother. The old man sighed. He had kept his promise, teaching the 2 orphans he had found at his doorstep everything he knew. Swordsmanship, marksmanship, deception, how to infiltrate a mansion and not be spotted by the hounds, how to kill someone in their sleep without leaving a trace, and how to pull the trigger without hesitation. 6 bullets, 6 lives, the old man said to himself. No, said the sister, 5 lives. 2 of these are for the same person. The old man didn't say anything. He didn't ask why they chose him. And he didn't ask how they planned to carry it out, just like how his teacher hadn't asked him all those years ago. But the old man cared about his students. His nearly blind eyes had seen more than anyone in the city. Revenge is a one-way street, children, he said. What you've learned from me is enough for you to live a rich and meaningful life. I don't want you to end up like me. Just look at my eyes. Divine punishment, meted out to those who seek revenge. He tried to open his cloudy eyes for them to see. We died 20 years ago, said the brother. If we don't fire these bullets at those who deserve them, then we cannot return to the land of the living. The old man stopped speaking. He had known this day would come when he took them in. All right. I'll not try to persuade you any further. He supported himself with his arms and stood up. Lately, even something as simple as standing took a toll on him. Even so, he wanted to go around the table and hug his favorite students. He knew that this was the last time they would see each other. The old man asked, Do you need anything else? No, said the brother. The old man noticed the sister frown. He couldn't see it, but he felt it. What is it, Iris? The old man asked. He always liked Iris better. While she was considerate and passionate, she never hesitated when she had a gun in her hand. Iris looked at the flowers outside the window and said, Actually, I have another request. May I pick a few of your rainbow roses? The Two Musketeers, page 224. This is it. 2 muskets pointed at the Baron's head. The sound of the blood dripping from one of the guns served as a countdown for the noble's life. Splat, splat, splat. Useless trash! The Baron cursed in his mind while staring at the guards on the floor behind the 2 shooters. I paid them so much money for nothing. Do you know who we are? One of the shooters asked. So what if I do? You can tell the judge of hell who sent you there. The storm washed over his face, eyes and ears, but the sound of the dripping blood was crystal clear. Splat, splat, splat. I know who you are. Iris. Tulipe. My children, spoke the Baron. He was done resisting. On this stormy night, crumpled on the muddy ground. He was tired. Tulipe spat. How dare you call yourself our father? I wonder what the look on your face was when you killed Mother 20 years ago, when you forced her to take poison. The Baron sighed and closed his eyes, recalling what had happened then. To his surprise, it was effortless. Her eyes emerged suddenly before his eyes. How could he not have fallen in love with her? Her wondrous silhouette, her melodious laughter. From one room to the next, she had stolen glances at him. Her brown eyes, deep as a serene lake, shone like the night stars. How could he have turned her down? Will you marry me? Looking into her eyes. He could not say no. Oh wait, she said it? Will you marry me? How then could she betray him? Why had she asked for more, thinking that he would elope with her? Splat, splat, splat. She asked for too much, the Baron said, opening his eyes. Mother never asked for anything. She just wanted to live a quiet life like everyone else, Iris argued. Blood dripped from the grip of her musket, but her hand did not tremble. Oh, she's bleeding. She asked me to give up my wealth and run away with her, the Baron roared. He was sure that his children didn't understand the idea of wealth and power. She asked you to give up your vanity and give her true love instead, just as you had promised to, said Iris. You would have made the same choice were you in my shoes. No, Tulipe said with conviction. We would not kill our loved ones for wealth and power. Only the devil is capable of doing that. The Baron shook his head. He no longer wished to argue. Splat, splat, splat. What is the point of this? He asked himself and the shooters both. You lost your mother and now you're about to kill your father. What else will you have left, besides your crime? Iris and Tulipe looked at each other. There was no hesitation in their eyes. Justice. Two shots rang out, like thunder roaring through the night. Every drop of rain shivered in shock. They stood in the rain, unmoving. The storm battered the city, but nothing was louder than their silence. After a long time, Iris took out a rainbow rose and placed it on the Baron's chest. Then, falling into her brother's arms, she wept. The rain washed away her tears, and the mixture flowed freely into the earth, toward the realm of the dead. Then her body suddenly shook as she grabbed Tulipe's clothes. What's wrong, Iris? Look, she pointed at the rainbow rose she just put down. It bloomed quietly in the dark, as vibrant as the Baron's blood. Mother's favorite flower is blooming. The Two Musketeers, page 358. Number 65, Ooze Avenue. The wooden door to a tavern in a cranny of this city of sin was kicked open with a bang. The loud chatter stopped, and patrons put their drinks down to look at the uninvited guests in the pouring rain. The muscular man was dressed in black from head to toe. If it weren't for the candles in the tavern, one would think that it was the heavy darkness of the night that had forced the door open. The intruder turned slightly. The brim of his hat covered most of his face, showing only his sharp chin. He looked around, almost as if wondering why he was here. From his relaxed posture and relieved breathing, patrons could speculate he had either accomplished something very important or just carried out some revenge. And at that moment, he just wanted a drink. He walked toward the bar, and the raindrops on his coat followed him like loyal spirits. His boots thudded with every heavy step taken, leading with unbelievable crushing conviction. "Give me something strong," said he, with a voice low enough to shatter wine bottles. The owner poured him a glass reluctantly, then looked at the door and wondered how long it would take him to wipe the boot print off. "Thank you," said the man. "Just accomplished something great alongside my sister." "Well, where is she?" the owner asked, deciding to make some small talk. "She went to plant flowers. I gave her all my money because she's always wanted to do that." "How will you pay for your drink then?" The man seemed taken by surprise, as if he had never considered it. "Guess I'll pay with this." The man tossed a black musket onto the bar top with a thud. The patrons next to him spilled their drinks in terror. Everyone held their breath. "I'm not taking that," the owner feigned calm as he replied. But quietly he reached into the drawer under the bar, where he hid a pistolet. He wasn't sure if he could fire faster than the man in front of him, though. "Don't worry, it just fired its last and most important shot, and it will never be used again." The explanation done, and the man downed another drink. The owner caught a glimpse of the man's face when he raised his head. It was a handsome face, with a high nose, some scars, and sad black eyes. The owner withdrew his hand from the drawer. This man wasn't here to cause a scene. It was almost as if he had been drunk even before entering the tavern. "May I have another?" the man asked. "You've had enough," replied the owner. "I know, but tonight was special." He didn't notice that the owner was trying to get him to leave. "How so?" "I just killed someone." The owner's fat hands froze. Coming from this man, it didn't sound like a joke. "It was revenge," added the man. "He killed my mother." "And who was he?" "The Baron." "Nonsense." Now the owner was certain that the man was drunk. Everyone knew that the Baron was bad news. Many wanted to kill him, but none dared to risk their lives to try. "I suppose you could have missed the gunshot if your farts were loud enough," the man taunted. The owner looked at the man again. He had large hands and muscular build. He seemed to have been through countless fights. No tavern scuffles these, but real fights that had put his life on the line. Something flashed across the owner's mind. He recalled the recent series of musket murders, where the killer always left the Rainbow Rose and struck on stormy nights. "No way. Are you?" Before the owner could finish, lightning struck beyond the wooden door, and a wild gale threw it open. Night flooded in, drowning the patrons like a tidal wave. When the candles were lit again, the man was gone, but he had left his musket behind. It stared everyone down in silence, like some solemn god of death staring into the night that belonged to it. The two musketeers, Finn. Oh, okay. Feel like my nose is getting very stuck. Very blocked. The Fall of the Faded Castle, a poem penned by an author unknown. The writing style seems to give off a strange and ominous aura. Alright. Once in a dream, I saw a black ship. It sailed through dark night and bleak fog. The hull was rotten, the mast shattered. Yet in some perverse jest at human rationality, each broken piece had been placed in some twisted way, entwined together by the algae and seaweed that enveloped the vessel, forming a dreadful dark shadow that shambled through the moonlight, that none could glimpse and not panic. Shift your gaze just a little, and in an instant it shall appear again before you. A tall and slim figure standing upon the deck, wrapped in dark robes, its face barely seen, only its eyes, those two cold eyes, which can pierce your soul with a glance. Was that a monster that arose from the depths of the seas? A lord returned from some ancient world? Or perhaps the nightmare itself? This is the type that doesn't rhyme, huh? By the banks of the world's purest lake, there once stood a glistening castle. Gold leaf and gems decorated its walls, and it shone blinding in the post-noon sun. Pretty banners and flags flew from the roof, while majestic towers soared alongside. Guests from afar peered through colorful windows and marveled at the wonders every step revealed. Yet none was more marvelous than the many statues, odd in form but as real as life. In the center of the hall sat a golden stage, where musicians played day and night for the castle's master. As the music sounded, listeners flocked like swarming bees to dance in time with the beat that seemed to captivate the entire world. The wine flowed never-ending to sate the thirst of revelry. For revelry. All could partake, no matter their class or their homeland. But none of this could ease the master's fears, or bring this troubled soul a moment of peace. And each time the tower's clock struck its deep midnight chime, he would be possessed by an uncontrollable panic, trapped by his fears and his gloom. The dark-robed figure would surely collect on debts owed, and all before his eyes would be turned into dust, the souls of his guests and his own included, as tribute to that dark, ancient world. At first all was still, apart from the curtains in the breeze, and the faint sounds of animals chewing, echoing through the walls from some unknown place. Then an odd rasping laugh erupted from an empty room, a nameless horror spreading in the dark. Then with terrible thunder and storm, a glowing red fog cloud embraced the castle just like a shroud. On the castle's great central stage, a tall thin figure did appear, a dark spirit in black robes arriving at last. The guests a moment ago enjoying their revels fell to the floor one by one, bereft of time, even to scream. The master sat shivering and still on his throne, his soul also snatched by the dark. Amid the roar of brick and the tile hitting the ground, the castle's glory faded into the past, swallowed by shimmering waves. The blood moon, the towers once blocked reappeared. The blood moon the towers once blocked reappeared in the sky, its baleful glow sweeping the land, and today by the banks of the world's purest lake, the water reflects the long-fallen, faded castle. The joy and brilliance that once lit its halls, consigned to legends and dreams. The ruins lie suffocated in the gloom. Through shattered windows, statues appear as like to monsters, who with the discordant tune that played sank with the castle into the sea. There is nothing there now, bar darkness, death, and loss. I think this is talking about Remuria. The castle that's taken by tides, and the Bale Moon, the Bale Crimson Moon. Isn't that Alakino? So the Blood Moon once blocked reappeared in the sky. Was she a Remurian prisoner? Who knows? But it could be her. Anyway, time tracker. Oh my god, this is so long. I'm not sure if I should. Let's read Paranary first. I might need to get some more water. I should also look up where this other book is. Give me a second. What is the book called? 1,000 Nights. Torn page 1,000 Nights locations in Sumer Desert. Oh. All 6 volumes of this book collection are found through torn pages of the respective volume. Show across the land of Loasatek. And I don't even have anything of it. No entries. Oh, that's interesting. Now what? Paranary. 2 volumes. This text is also known as Leobranto in Morato. Leobranto Inamorato. The author of the first edition claims to have based this tale on the legendary story known throughout Conria, but there are none left who can verify this. It is an anthological work produced over several generations at this point. Maybe Dainsleif can attest to it. This is a story from very ancient times indeed. It is said that in those days, birds had not yet split into domestic and wild kindreds. In those days, a crimson moon shone down upon the subterranean realm, and not the dark sun of latter days. So there's only a crimson moon there. There was no dark sun. Due to the kingdom's unique position, things from outside this world were always leaking into it. The kingdom's weapons would wipe out the calamities slipping in. But what of all the other objects, such as, say, a child who may have come from some destroyed world? One of the sages spoke thusly to the great ruler. O High Lord of the Nobles, a John once told me a tale of another world. Once upon a time, there were sea people who believed that the gods came from the sea. Each time they discovered a shipwrecked person, they would treat them with the utmost honor, for they believed that the gods would take the form of the shipwrecked to investigate the mortal realm. The ruler replied, "I do not perceive your meaning, so do as you please." Naturally, no oceans in the traditional sense lay within the kingdom's borders. The earliest founders of the kingdom had once seen the majestic silhouettes of the mountains blur under the sun's searing glare, and the rippling reflections of the moonlight falling upon the sea surface like a scattering of pearls. But at the time the story took place, only outsiders and those few who had left the kingdom on official duties and returned could describe such sights to the ruler. The ocean and the sea were often used as a metaphor for the space projected by the stars. Oh, so what? The ocean is suspended above them? In anticipation of the arrival at their kingdom of gods from beyond the so-called ocean, or rather the arrival of beings who could transcend the gods, they founded an organization, an orphanage, to take care of such children. In latter days, the orphans of the kingdom and those who wandered in from outside were accepted as well. The young Perinari's first memory was that of being asked by the grown-ups to crawl through a dark corridor. This passage might have been a chimney for winter fires, for it was filled with coal ash, and there was not a single crack in it through which smoke or light could pass through. As he crawled, he would sometimes stumble in the pitch-black darkness. Fortunately, the corridor appeared designed for the passage of children in the first place, so the falls were not very painful. It also lacked any annoying cobwebs. Oh, nice. When Perinari reached the end at last, the exit had not opened yet. He knocked only for the grown-ups to coldly ask, "Are you dead?" Well, how was he to reply if he was dead? But the grown-ups did not like this response. They kept asking the same question, until he at last shouted, "Yes, I'm dead." The adults then asked, "Did you see it then?" Perhaps it was the fear brought on by the darkness combined with hunger and exhaustion. But Perinari did not see an illusion. The crimson moon, hanging high in the pitch-dark night sky, suddenly turned around, revealing itself to be a titanic, horrified eye. The adults opened the door and embraced the soot-covered Perinari. "You have traversed the fire of two worlds within the hearth, and here you are reborn." Then the crimson moon set, and the dark sun descended into a yet darker dusk that transcendental person from beyond, who the kingdom orphanage was awaiting, never arrived. But unusual individuals they had aplenty, and many of those who strode forth from the gates of that orphanage became great knights of the kingdom. Perinari was, in his time, the leading figure amongst their ranks. That is, unless he were forced to compete with his best friend, Leobrant. They should have competed for glory, and decided who was superior through the amount of honors they crowned themselves in, and in the number of goblets of fine wine down during the festivities afterward. For some reason, their rivalry would take a mortal turn. That day, the orphanage welcomed a new member. She was a beautiful young lady from a foreign land, who claimed to be a noble princess. Her nation had been defeated by Deus Ori, and yet the daughter of the priestly line she remained, and would not submit to the new god, and so she had drifted, wandering through the gates of their kingdom. She called herself Angelica, note 1, meaning one who is a divine emissary. Fair Angelica declared that she would only marry the mightiest knight in all the kingdom. Perinari cared not a whit, but Leobrant was smitten with her. Angelica would often take walks near the Sea of Wells, and there she spoke much of the outside world to Leobrant. Perinari would come along out of concern for his friend, and because suspicion was born in him, sooner than curiosity. He would doubt her every word, yet wished that he might see these things one day. Angelica's arrival changed Leobrandt altogether. He would cause trouble, looking for any provocation upon which to stake a duel against other knights. He would win all these bouts and turn to Angelica to show off his prowess, yet all she ever gave him was a cool smile. For what great feat was it for a great runner that they raced a tortoise and triumphed? Nord, who walks in the dark sprites, Note 2. Alf, the greatest warrior in the Universitas Magistorium. Elbrich, master of the Half-Knights, and Perineri, the undefeated. Angelica spoke thus of the mightiest figures in the kingdom as she saw them. Having fallen head over heels into the throes of love, Leobrandt came to what was an all too reasonable conclusion for himself. People might call him a traitor, or believe him mad, but even so he had no wish to hurt Perineri. As for Perineri, he believed that his best friend's madness would be cured, if only he could kill Angelica. In the midst of that most merciless of pursuits, the three left the kingdom's borders. At that very moment, Leobrandt clutched his face, and the words escaping his mouth gradually grew more like the howling of a wild beast. The witch Angelica explained thus. Leobrandt is a descendant of those who forsook their god and came to the kingdom. This is why the kingdom's obstinately pure-blooded aristocracy persists. This is the price of betraying your own god. As for you, Perineri, you're one who drifted there. Thus you bear no such curse. You may not have the nobility to shoulder a world, but you too have your own destiny. And as for me, I betrayed no one, not for a moment, until my god died. So I too bear this curse not. But you now see who I truly am, yes? The sun rose over the horizon at that moment, and Perineri's blade slipped from his fingers, exhausted from the night-long battle. Covering his forehead with the back of his hand, he looked upon the sun for the first time, and when he glanced back at Angelica, he saw that she was neither a beautiful woman from Liyue or a wicked witch, nor a wicked witch. I am freedom, that which has broken free of fate. This is what Leobrandt sought in agony, but that which is now yours for the taking. It was nothing before Perineri, only vast empty land. Note 1. Note that the ancient people of Liyue did not use such names. Now that I consider it, her name may have been Lady Miaoyin, Lady of the Wondrous Sound, or Tianwang Nu, Servant of Tianwang. Note 2. The Black Wolves of the first edition archaeological work of Khaenri'ah indicates that this must have been a type of war beast created using alchemy. Alchemy and the Beastmaster Knights were a mainstay during the Crimson Moon Dynasty, but interest in mechanical engineering during the Eclipse Dynasty would cause it to fall behind. Special thanks goes to Mr. Denon, Archaeological Studies into Khaenri'ah, which inspired this work, first edition. Mr. Jean Figake continued writing and refinements which have given this story its ending, second edition. Mrs. Jean Figake and Mr. Jean Figake fills for their corrections on miscellaneous typos, third edition. Compilation of Carl Ingold's records from the investigations in an abandoned city, 13th edition. Carl, Mr. Karasawa's Assistance in Natural History and Miscellaneous Studies, 14th edition. Mr. Yun's Notes on Liyue Culture, 15th edition. Ah, Mr. Yun! 15 editions, good. Well, before I do the time tracker, I'm gonna get some water. Alright, be right back. Alright. Time Tricker. A Fontanian science fiction novel published by the Steambird. It tells the story of an engineer's travels using a time machine. Okay. It's like Back to the Future. This is a story from many years ago. After the evening banquet, Miss Aviva, who today would be Lady Nenonen, was, as always, theatrically grousing to us about the all too swift march of science. Though her grasp on engineering is even less firm than her knowledge of Watatsumi Island's soil quality, and of course she knows nothing about the latter either. But self-proclaimed interest in engineering was in vogue amongst some ladies and gentlemen at the time. Our ancestors had already conquered this land thousands of years ago, she said as she cleared her throat, twirling her jade-plumed and blue-gem-encrusted folding fan while endeavoring in vain to wear a visage of despondency. And a few hundred years ago, they conquered the oceans with ease using new diving equipment. Today, some noble young folk have suddenly got it in their heads to use a so-termed gravimeter to break free from the Earth's shackles and conquer the skies. And surely, I fear, their dream may yet become reality in the near future. Fear? Indeed, it is just as you say. Humans, what a mighty and energetic species. With such great wisdom. No matter the circumstances, humans ever seek to change their living conditions with unimaginable passion. The Steambird's editor immediately opined. In truth, when it comes to mechanical engineering and theory, humanity is already on par with the Creator. They have conquered most of the natural world, and by their will, they can shape this world anew. That's not what I meant to say. Miss Aviva spoke with an affected sigh. Those distant and dark unknown continents, those ruins hidden deep beneath the oceans, all that romantic exploration and trailblazing, such great achievements that which has put the glorious achievements of our sciences and reasoning on full display, have all but become lost to our civilization. Our forebears reached too high and achieved too much, leaving too little for us to explore or conquer. Could there be a sadder fate to befall those ladies and gentlemen amongst us, who were born to crave the exploration of the unknown? Here, her pretentious invocation of the legendary King Argiadai's words seemed an attempt to prove how truly this state of affairs hurt her. However, everyone simply sat around lazily, at most giving polite nods. Lady L lightly yawned. Seeing how no one answered, Mr. Viva's enthusiasm faded, and she proceeded to switch the topic to next week's ball. This was evidently a more popular topic, and the stiff atmosphere once again grew lively. Monsieur Rattard was about to regale us with a tale he had heard in Sumeru regarding a tower, a mage, and a glass ball. But before he could begin, Mr. Cyric, who had remained silent till now, interrupted. Good, Miss Aviva. The things you said certainly left an impression on me. He lit a cigarette. However, you need not worry. There is still one space that has yet to be subdued by humanity. Indeed, if the required techniques do not emerge, I fear it will never be. Where is that? Rattard asked, a sullen look on his face. He had been so very confident about his monkey story after all. Time. The room fell silent momentarily, before all present broke out in laughter. What preposterous talk, Dr. Reiner declared, trying not to laugh. Firstly, how can time be considered a part of space? Can you elaborate yourself from time and exist independently in space alone? What do you mean? I mean to, at this moment, still be speaking to me, and in the next disappear without a trace. Is this possible? He waited for a moment, as if waiting for the others to think. Obviously, anyone with the capacity for rigorous thought would know for certain that much like length, width, and height, time is also a dimension of space. As such, it is part of nature and can thus be conquered. Utterly preposterous, the doctor muttered, but did not refute the statement. I have been involved in research of this sort for some time, he continued, and I have come up with a machine that can allow people to travel through time as they please. This machine will be ready in 2 months. At that time, Miss Aviva, I invite you and all the ladies and gentlemen present here to my workshop to bear witness to humanity's next great achievement, the conquest of time. Miss Aviva did not speak. In fact, from her expression, her noble friend did not understand Mr. Siric's words at all. Why is she even here? 2 months later, we, the Steambird editor, the doctor, Mr. Revello Oliver, and others who had attended that evening banquet came to Siric's workshop as agreed. Miss Aviva was not there, for she had never had much interest in such things, but instead found more meaning in attending a social ball at Salon Caritat. Surprisingly, Siric had grown older and more frail in just 2 months. In the dim light of the lamp, his once enthusiastic, arrogant expression had hardened into something indifferent and solemn, almost like the emaciated ascetics of Sumeru. He welcomed us to take our seats, speaking in a calm tone. Well then, how is your plan to conquer the time progressing? Oh, that's a Steambird. Well then, how's your plan to conquer time progressing? The Steambird editor asked directly. Where is the time machine you spoke of? Siric did not reply. Instead, he pointed to the desk next to him. Our gazes followed, and in the middle of the table was a gold-plated, whale-shaped model airship, about the size of a small clock. Even a non-professional eye could readily discern that the model was of exquisite craftsmanship. Beneath its clear crystal shell, an indistinguishable and formless color flowed ever so slowly, glowing faintly in the lampshade's shadow. So, the doctor said, it took you 2 months to make this little toy that would amaze even Le Porte's artisans? Certainly looks like nothing special, Siric said, an inscrutable emotion shining in his eyes that could almost be called pity. But this is simply a projection. The object has left in this moment, just as one can only see a thin line when viewing paper from the side. Blithering nonsense. For some reason, Siric did not refute that statement, merely asking us in a calm tone to hear him out concerning his time travel experiences. We agreed, and so he began to tell the story. I shall now relate below, without interruption from beginning to end. For all of you, it was 2 months ago when I first told you of the idea of a time machine. Similarly, it must have been a week ago when I finished constructing said device and stepped into it, initiating the very first instance of time travel in human history. The strange sensations that came over me as I traveled through time are beyond words. Maybe I should use his voice. It doesn't matter. Just as there are no words with which one can impress the star's brightness upon a blind person. About 20 minutes after this, though describing time travel by using subjective time is quite meaningless, the machine ceased operation. I looked about me then and realized that I was in a Remurian imperial settlement. The grand temples and arenas carved of titanic stone would make the opera epiclese hang its head in shame. while the recreations of Elaine Guillotine would be little more than Chard's wind-up toy before the towering Rumurian golems. Just as I was beside myself in awe, a few patrolling troops discovered me. Seeing my strange style of dress, they took me to be a spy for the barbarian tribes. They seized me, naming me a lowly slave, a degenerate believer in a false god, and threatened to throw me into a deep cistern to feed the vipers. Fortunately, the local Adele, I later found out that her name was Adia Anavana. Adia Anavana. I realized that my identity was anything but ordinary, and had me sent before her. She endured my calamitous grammar and catastrophic accent at the time. At that time, I could not even pronounce Remuria, with it coming out something more akin to Imuya. While asking me many questions, which I answered truthfully, quickly she accepted the fact that I was from the future and showed me a stone slate that the slaves had recently dug up. The slate was a perfect square, each line and column engraved with 7 symmetrical sequences of symbols. 7, These were not in Remurian script, but rather the characters we use today, regardless of the manner in which the text was read, or the order or direction. The information within the text did not change. It was an elaborate riddle involving dogs, pastures, cyan finches, the summer rains, the song of the roses, Arishbalan tiger stripes, and the ordered patterns of rocks. Despite my long-time love of wordplay games, this endless cycle of riddles made me terribly dizzy. For some reason, I knew that I must solve it, no matter the price. I spent half a year doing so alongside Idea. And as it turned out, the key to deciphering it lay with the name of a slave now 30 years dead, while the answer was a date set several hundred years after the Empire's fall. I bade Idea farewell and stepped back upon the time machine. A name of a slave now 30 years dead. Answer was a date set several hundred years after the Empire's fall. Was that the prophecy saying that the Empire was gonna fall? Well, it's like several hundred years afterwards, but I'm not sure. Anyway, forwarding myself to the date in hopes of finding the secret behind that stone slate. There I met several Marchese hunters, and they showed me another stone slate, which again had 49 mirrored characters on it. That formed another riddle. Again, the answer was a date, one set in a future still further off. Following these stone slates' directions, I crisscrossed the fabric of past and future, shuttling back and forth 13 times. Each stone slate's riddle was trickier than the last. One of them could only be cracked using a bad romance novel that could only be published 300 years hence. The 5th word of the 37th page of that book would form a conjugate with the full name of the 375th Maison Gardiennage officer from 375 years ago. Another riddle cipher was based on a white flower that will only bloom several millennia in the future. Is this just to prove that time travel works? These stone slates? I know not its name, and its pistil structure is very strange indeed. It might be a mallow of some sort, but I cannot be sure. That flower is nourished by skylark calls, and so one of the clues to its cipher was the number of ribs on a skylark during Remurian times. I suppose that is, generally speaking, just how the riddles worked. The final stones, late, came from the underground storeroom of the Basil Elton Memorial Museum, and had naught but one number on it, 0. I do not know what I was thinking at the moment. After all, setting my destination to 0 is an action utterly devoid of meaning. But I punched a number into my machine all the same and pulled the control lever. After who knows how long, the machine stopped. I sensed that I was floating atop a sea with no waves or tides, or even the wind did not exist at that moment. A sky that loomed overhead was not blue, but a dark red adorned with countless stars, pale and distant, like salt frost lining the shore. I stared at this very first of oceans, transfixed. Question. Oh, okay, go ahead. And several minutes passed before I realized that there was something shadowy hidden beneath the placid surface. It was the Palais ammonia, which should not be there. At that moment, I could hear someone call me by name. Nevin Sirik, the voice called. I turned and it was like looking into a mirror. A man identical to myself looking at me dead in the eye, just as I did to him. Nevin Sirik, he continued. You wish to conquer time. No one can do that. It was you who left those riddles behind? It was you who left those riddles behind. He repeated my question as if it was an answer. Those riddles are part of time, and every matching symbol is time itself. So the final answer to the riddle of time is 0. 0 is not an answer. Instead, it's just another mystery. Well, the answer cannot be found in the riddle, he said. The answer to time's riddle is a mirror. Or perhaps I should say that this is the answer that is simplest to comprehend. When two mirrors face each other, time is the infinite reflection of light therein. Countless diverging, converging, and parallel lights form the illusion we call time. There is no past or future, for the past is the future. As you stand here at moment 0 and look forward along the gap between the two mirrors, all beams of light fall along the same plane, and not one may escape. The Palais ammonia had already sunk long before it was ever built, and the sunken Palais will be raised anew. Joy, sorrow, tears, and death must infinitely recur, for this is the nature of a mirror. Similarly, you can never conquer time, just as you can never grasp your shadow in your hand. Perhaps it was horror or momentary frenzy, but when he finished, I whipped out the firearm I kept for self-defense, leveled it at his head, and pulled the trigger. The room was silent. I do not expect you to believe me, Sirik said, as he stood up, his eyes sweeping the room. Just take it as a bunch of bunk that I made up to cover up for my inability to make a time machine. Make of it some lame tale, a dream born purely of delusion. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, I shall take my leave of you. My future self awaits a riddle that I must set him. I never saw Sirik Nevin again. Well, it's a fictional tale, isn't it? Yeah, science fiction novel. It's pretty cool though. So I set that riddle for him to actually go and kill himself. I'm not sure what it really made him shoot himself, but sure. Fables de Fontaine. What's this about? A storybook containing various lore and tales, authored by Mary Haricot de la Fontaine, most of which are not written by the author but are compiled from ancient poems, which have since been lost. Alright. The maiden and the son, the adopted daughter of the fox, grew to be of marriageable age, her face as gentle as a beautiful spring. Delicate and polite she was, and none could name a lady better. Therefore the fox said to her daughter, "My girl, little girl, I am standing in my grave. I may soon no longer be able to care for you as I once did. Please, choose a husband for yourself. All would be honored to be the one. The daughter replied, If it shall be so, mother, please have me wed to the most powerful being in this world. Ah, and that would be the sun, the fox said. My son-in-law you shall be, O sun shining in the sky. No, the sun refused. These clouds are more powerful, for they block my radiance. So it is then, flowing clouds, those who block the sun's radiance, please marry my daughter. Oh, that won't do. The winds blows me away so easily. You're better off entrusting her to the wind. But the wind was stopped by a mountain, and so the fox went to it, and the mountain demurred, citing conflicts with a mouse. Wait, mouse? That mouse, when enraged, could bore a tunnel through the mountains. Thus, it was mightier by far than the mountains, was it not? The mouse suggested the cat the dog the wolf. After having gone through the entire cycle, the fox found herself facing the sun once more, and thus did the young beauty marry the sun. The story tells the truth that one should accept their destiny, instead of making excuses and trying to evade to the end. No matter how honest or how cunning, one can never escape the duty one sought to shoulder. Okay. The Crow and the Fox. Once upon a time, a crow perched on a tree, a piece of stolen cheese in its beak. Seeing the crow, the fox living under the tree looked up and said, Listen, my friend. The thing in your mouth is no enticing feast, but a source of misfortune that anyone sane would avoid like the plague. Look at your throat and then back at the cheese. Are they mashed in size? Swallow it and you might just lose your life. The cheesemakers of the city have only let you go because they know this. Or do you think they've handed it to you for safekeeping? The crow cared little for such words and continued holding on to the cheese. Seeing that the crow did not intend to give up yet, the fox spoke up once more. My friend, this cheese is not some valuable delicacy. Think, when you glided between mountain and forest free of heat or care, did you then hear of something called cheese? If you would listen, I would say that such a thing was never meant for us to enjoy. Let it rot in the mountains, let the wind carry it into the sea. Better that than let it become a shackle that binds you. The crow fluffed its feathers, but kept its hold on the cheese. Seeing that the crow still would not give up, the fox sighed. Come on, my friend. If you truly must savor the taste of cheese, I, a mere fox and bystander, shall not stop you. But surely you must not know how cheese is best consumed. If you were to simply swallow it willy-nilly, it would be a terrible waste of such a rare treasure. Alas, and such a waste it would be too, of all the recipes I've spent time gleaning from the lands around the world. Suddenly curious, the crow could not help but open its mouth. And could you teach me such recipes? Even as it did so, the cheese fell to the ground, and the fox snatched it up before turning tail and burrowing into its nest. The story tells us how those who seek to discover mysteries that they should not know shall lose all, even that which they already had. It's talking about the law divers, probably. A Tale of the Donkey. Even when dressed to the nines, a plain Jane will rarely be mistaken for a socialite. Everyone in this world has strengths and weaknesses that are theirs and theirs alone. Thus, the only way forward is to know oneself and face one's own flaws. Don't be like the donkey of this tale and make an ass of oneself. Having learned how the fox sees the cheese, the donkey sought to emulate the crafty fox. Why is the world like this? The fox is no genius. Why do others always toot her horn? Do I, the donkey, not labor every day? Yet no one cares to even greet me with a smile. Since this is the case, I shall learn from the fox and do the same as she. Her little trick surely shall be mine in no time. Thus the donkey hid among the trees and waited for his target to come by. As the daughter of the cheesemaker passed by, the donkey bounded over, and imitating the fox raised a hoof, and said with a smug voice, "Ha! Listen to me! You know nothing about swift travel. Just throw all your cheese away. Shall your cart not arrive sooner that way?" The young girl was shocked, and she immediately replied, "Oh, you silly donkey! You dare to try to pull my leg? Get me my stick. I'm driving this beast back to the mill." Seeing the stick being waved at it, the donkey ceased speaking at once. This tale explains how trying to be someone else and smothering your own identity is by no means beneficial. Instead, it only leads to more suffering. Try to be someone else, huh? Interesting. I wonder if it's talking about Farina. Well, since I haven't completed these ones. Oh, the emissary of King Remus came to Ernias, asking her for a gift of marriage, which means eternal harmony. La Chanson d'Ernest. I might want to know about this. Volume 1. Let's look that up. Lumidos Harbor, upper floor. Okay. Let's go grab that real quick. That's right, I never really explored Lumidos Harbor. Oh well. Wait, is this the upper floor? Oh, it is. Oh, that's all. Let's get out of here. Was there anything else I wanted? Can't remember. So let's move on. Books. La chanson d'Agnès. How the emissary of King Remus came to Agnès, asking her for a gift of Aramori Castle's water and earth, and for her to submit to the Symphonia Capitoli, which means the eternal harmony. How Agnès bid farewell to the mistress of many waters, and how she threw her sword into the lake 3 times. The same sword? How Agnès bid farewell to the mistress of many waters. Oh, okay. Wait, why is this different? How the knights of every region united to lend their strength to Agnès, in opposition to the designs of the Capitoliani to invade. Anyway. Chapter 6, Part 7. How the emissary of King Remus came to Agnès, asking her for a gift of Aramori Castle's water and earth for her to submit to the Symphonia Capitoli, which means the eternal harmony. Of the glorious deeds of Otkeris of Renani, a righteous and noble knight, and his valiant battle against a venom-breathing dragon. Much has already been said earlier, that we shall draw to a close here. Now we shall look back and talk of Agnès in those days. At the time, Agnès had just defeated the princes of Belsoy, or whatever, Trebatis, and Uromandoi. Yeah. And accepted their allegiance. And so the residents of those lands knew of the kindness of the mistress of many waters, submitting to her rule with sincerity. To celebrate that fealty and wisdom, 8 days of feasting were ordered in Aramori Castle, with all to be treated as honored guests. On that day, a musician arrived, an emissary, dispatched by King Remus of Capitoli, claiming to have a message to deliver. He came with no attendants or guards, just a single horse, and a golden-tipped fasces as a symbol of his status. Everyone present was deeply displeased, but the emissary was permitted to speak out of respect for Agnès, the beloved leader of the knights. On seeing Agnès, the emissary first wished her well and performed a formal bow before explaining his intent. I represent the most honorable and greatest King Remus, Emperor of all, and send my regards to your court. May your anger never destroy your powers of reasoning. King Remus asks of you 2 gifts as legitimate tribute. The first is water, for the purest of waters can wash away all sins. The second is earth, for dense earth can resist the erosion that looms. King Remus expects you and your people to honor his wishes. Should you dare resist, death shall be sure to follow. The emissary's message sent Sir Guillaume of Gallon into a rage, and he drew the sacred blade, Narbonnaise, from its scabbard. Seize you, braggart! To make such threats on this occasion is an insult to every knight here. And if you mean to threaten my sworn liege, there is no need for me to hold back. I shall have your head, sir, in a single stroke. More of the brave knights drew their swords, including Knight Blancandrin and his compatriot Knight Marcel. But the wise knight Agnès gave an order to the knights present. The emissary from Capitolani was not to be harmed. Please tell King Remus, great emissary, that in this whole world there is only one to whom we bend the knee, and that is the beneficent mistress of many waters, our mistress, who bears for us our sins, the greatest and most honorable ruler. No other ruler or god can be spoken of in the same breath, for she is greatest in kindness and first in glory. On hearing that, King Remus's emissary again spoke, saying this before all gathered there. Before King Remus conquered the land, war, hunger, or plague often descended upon us. Those who once fought against each other have been brought to peace under a single ruler, and this is wisdom. For otherwise who shall mourn when the waters flow over our heads? And who shall save us in our hour of need? Of all these braves, who has rescued themselves from ignorance and superstition? Who hears the cries of the weak? King Remus's orders are well meant and born of pity. He does not wish to see a single person fall into the waters. He would see all saved. Ah. He thinks he's saving them. Volume 2, Chapter 6, Part 9. How the knights of every region united to lend their strength to Aranyes, in opposition to the designs of the Capitoliani to invade. When Sir Agricane had finished, the fine bowman knight dressed, Prince of Mayonnaise, was first to speak and offer his view. The harmony and prosperity that Vivarium's heir has promised us are naught but lies, his promise but trickery. Knight Aranyes of the Lake Light, none so wise and noble as you should be taken in by such pretense. You must know that those words are aimed much like a poisoned arrow tipped with gold. It may be dazzling to watch, but the pain it brings shall be all the greater. His fair companion Adsiltia, the lady of the azure sail, whose name meant daughter of ice, was next to speak. Vivarium's heir is the least trustworthy of traitors. That he would have such harmonious congress with Boethius is completely bewildering. Knight Aranyes of the Lake Light, no matter what reason he offers, we cannot let the Capitoliani harm all we know to be good. Please make up your mind as soon as you are able, and do battle with the court of the Capitoliani, for there shall be no salvation for our souls should you bend the knee. Let the evil disappear like dew in the sun. Oathbreakers and the unjust will be driven from this world, and in this way, songs will be sung of your wisdom, for those who seek to exact the depth of bloodshed will be remembered by those in misery. And following that, Sir Names, Sir Tulpen, and all the other noble knights lent their swords to the fight. Aranyes knew of their dedication and offered her sincere thanks. Then she met with King Remus's musician and spoke to him as follows. Please inform King Remus, noble emissary, that we are not bound to bow before any monarch. The mistress of many waters has granted us all equal honor. There are none greater who shall trample me, none lesser who must envy me, and I am to lead her blessed army to destroy the white dragon and the grand city, to cleanse their bodies of their own blood, in their own blood. Like a herder drives the wolves from his flock, I will drive the invaders from this land to serve as an eternal warning. And with that, Aranyes ordered Sir Fiarabras to prepare wondrous gifts for the Capitoliani musician. She also ordered the emissary to be escorted back to Charybdis castle, so he could report to King Remus. Of that, we shall write later. Well, at least he didn't die, right? Volume 3, Chapter 20, Part 3. How Erinyes bid farewell to the mistress of many waters, and how she threw her sword into the lake 3 times. The mistress of many waters heard all this, and, in her eternal kindness, compassion, and grace, granted Erinyes her wish. And Sir Erinyes said, "Thank you, O Queen of many waters, for showing me the pure grail I so urgently desired, and for allowing me to complete this journey. Those knights who yet survive, your servants, will continue to loyally serve you and your future kingdom, following that noble musician. They will pursue the lingering shadows, restoring justice for those who travel in the dark, yearn for the light, while those in the light know nothing of the dark. Goodness is nothing but a dream. Thus do I present these good knights to you and beg that you forgive their sins." The mistress of many waters heard all this, and, in her eternal kindness, compassion, and grace, granted Erinyes her wish. And Sir Erinyes said, "O Queen of many waters, I confess to you my sins and do not hide my evil, for they are too grave to be forgiven. In your high and pure ideals, you must not forgive such sins. The only possible comfort for my soul is expulsion and exile. There are no angels or divine edicts in your kind and loving land. Only sin may determine sin, and only people may judge people. I ask only that you remember my suffering and witness our grievances, for these are like disease, like a poison. I submit my name into your hands, and may all who criticize us be cursed for all eternity for their lack of righteousness." The knight with sea-colored eyes finished her speech and drew her shining sword. A beam of watery light shone from it and lit the valley. "O fair Hordeclaire, sword of light, how you shine under the blazing sun's beams! You have drunk the crimson blood of the unrighteous, oath-breakers, and the unjust have fallen like flakes of snow to the ground before your purity. Countless sins stain my coat, for I bear the guilt of bloodshed. I have taken lives, even that of the righteous, yet still you shine. May the mistress of many waters have mercy. The unrighteous are not worthy of you. Beautiful and holy lake light, I return you now to the lake." Thus did the knight with sea-colored eyes cease speaking, and she threw the sword in her hand to the waters of the lake. Yet the sword did not sink in and drifted back to her feet. "O fair Hordeclaire, sword of light, you are so lovely and sacred, your golden hilt inlaid with jewels. Daira, that maiden by the lake, that noble lady of pure waters, gifted you to be to the chief of knights, so she could perform countless deeds." Okay, so that's how she cast it into the lake 3 times. Because it floats and drifted back to her. It was filled with air bubbles. Tales of Snow-Winged Goose. Not even sure if I should read this. Oh well, might as well, I guess. Volume 1. A short fairy tale, shorter, that is quite popular in Fontaine. Many children saw the exquisitely drawn cover and thought it was really written by the kind Madame Snow-Winged Goose of legend. Okay. Paris the Penguin. Oh, so that's where oh shit. I can't remember the name. Fremine got the Paris from. I see. Paris the Penguin. Legend says there's a sea of ice far off in the south. That is where the penguins live. Penguins are chubby little ladies and gentlemen, with tuxedos of black feathers pulled tight over their cute white bellies. You might think they look awkward on land, waddling about unable to fly like other birds, but just you wait. You'll see them throw themselves in onto those bellies and slide as if snowboarding, right into the water. With a splash, they become elegant and talented swimmers. Their thick, flipper-like wings helping to streamline their bodies as they zoom about underwater. Now, lots of children already know these penguin facts, and children who love penguins will know all this by heart. But there is one thing that even the penguin-loving children don't know. Every penguin in the world comes from outer space. Far beyond the skies, great flocks of penguins once flew across the universe, their flippers steering them between the stars, their sleek feathers reflecting what little starlight there was out there in the void. From red giants to white dwarfs, from the shoulder of Orion to the glimmering Tannhauser Gate. Orion? They have Orion? The penguins explored it all. The penguins remember it all. But perhaps because of some interstellar catastrophe, or even a simple family argument, several penguin clans split off from that galaxy-roaming flock and landed in the icy waters to the south of Teyvat. They became our first penguins, but those few arrivals found our atmosphere too thick to fly in, and their lack of prior experience with water left them unable to swim as well. Until, that is, the birth of the marvelous Paris the penguin. The first penguin to learn to swim. Like many young penguins, Pers would gaze up at the starry night sky, or the blue skies of daytime, and say to himself, if only I could fly, like my ancestors. And so Pers decided to learn from the birds. How did they fly so high? First, Pers the penguin asked the biggest bird he could find, a frigate bird. And the frigate bird said, "Ah, piece of cake. Once you bring me 30 fish, I'll spill the beans." And so Pers spent 50 nights on a moonlit beach, collecting 300 shells. Then he found a whale who liked shells and exchanged his 30 shells for 30 fish. The next day, the frigate bird swallowed these 30 fish in one great big gulp before laughing and flying away. As he flew off, he called down to young Pers, "The secret of flying is to be light. Why not try losing some weight?" Well, losing weight was easy enough, but if a penguin lost his thick layer of fat, it wouldn't be a penguin anymore. So Pers shook his head. And as all children know, the frigate bird got a new nickname after all this for its greed and unreasonable nature: the pirate bird. Next, Pers asked the seagulls for help, but all they did was squawk and croak. Pers was thus none the wiser, and the seagulls wound up having a big argument. In fact, some of them became so angry that they refused to fly ever again, becoming orcs. Though that's a different story. And so Pers asked the petrel for help. But the petrel would only teach him some impractical tricks, and not the basics that he needed most. Because that noble seabird thought, surely it was better to learn how to soar through a stormy sky than to worry about trivial matters like taking off and landing. Is this like a why do birds fly? Dang. Pers was now a very disappointed penguin. He waddled back to the beach and gazed out across the peaceful nighttime ocean. And as he did so, he noticed for the first time ever that the stars of his celestial homeland were reflected in the ocean. And he found them so beautiful that he simply jumped in. And after a brief moment of panicked sinking, Pers the penguin realized that he could fly. Underwater, at least. He could whiz speedily along or twist and turn. It was, after all, what those strong wings and that smooth round belly had been made for. And that is how Pers the penguin became the first penguin to learn to swim. And after Pers, many other penguins plucked up the courage to take that leap into the waters and, like their ancestors, soar amongst the glimmering stars, exploring, feeding, and playing. Once Pers had shown them the way, the penguins took to life in the water and forgot their spacefaring past. Not even in their dreams did they remember that limitless void. The penguins live here now, between sea and land. Princess Marcotte. Marcotte's the flower, isn't it? In the not too distant past, every type of plant and every type of beast had its own kingdom. And in the Marcotte kingdom, there lived a princess with a long pink hair. Legend has it that she was born in a crab claw and never put down roots. She always was and always would be a tough little seed. My darling daughter, my beloved treasure, why not settle down and enjoy a life of nobility? Why do you wait so long to sprout and grow? Asked her worried and kingly father.
Father, please do not fret or rage. I was born in a crab claw, and that claw will be my ship. Your daughter's fate is not to take root in the mundane earth and grow pretty flowers. It is to conquer the seas and explore a new and wonderful world.
The king was shocked by his daughter's plans. What was wrong with pretty flowers, he thought. Wasn't he a pretty flower? And what if his daughter one day decided to set down those roots and grow an even prettier garland than his? That would be terrible. But he only felt this way because he was ashamed of not being as pretty as he wanted to be. And so he had the princess and the crab claw locked up in a golden box. Yep. And so he just locked them up. Then he hid the golden box in a mirror made of purest water. And then he threw the mirror into the sapphire lake of the Pure Lotus Kingdom. There was only one way to reverse all those layers of confinement and free the princess and the crab claw. To make the mother lotus laugh. And as everyone knows, Pure Lotuses are all too used to weeping. All is well again, said the king. I find this hilarious. All is well again, said the king. Can rest my regal head in peace. All I need to do is wait and wait for my beloved daughter's seed to start to crack. She will lose her wanderlust, for what choice will she have but to grow? And then my daughter will be like me. She will follow her destiny and grow strong and healthy. But the brave princess was not cowed by her long imprisonment. She wrote joke after joke to try and make the Mother Lotus laugh, and practiced telling those jokes over and over. The crab claw chortled. Even the golden box guffawed. But the Mother Lotus? Nothing. So she decided to write a comic play. She rehearsed until the crab claw couldn't help but burst into laughter and hop around, despite having no feet. She even converted the interior of the box into a theater, but still, nothing. Next, the princess tried to find comedy in the circumstances of her imprisonment. Situational comedy, she called it. Soon the crab claw was, like the princess, laughing until it cried and then crying until it laughed. And eventually the Pure Lotus, keen criers, as we know, found themselves giggling. Finally, the Mother Lotus could contain her curiosity no longer, and the princess was granted an audience. And to everyone's surprise, the princess didn't even need to tell a single joke. The Mother Lotus burst out laughing as soon as the princess entered the room. Her laughter grew louder and louder, shaking the palace walls and sending ripples across the sapphire lake. Princess Marcotte won her freedom, but she won something more valuable as well. The ability to laugh and make others laugh, even in the saddest of circumstances. In her crab claw ship, the princess sailed the ocean waves on her voyage to the new world of her dreams, and ever since sailors have told tales of a crab claw ship. I wonder what made the Mother Lotus laugh that much. Anyway, Mr. Fox and the Clockwork Guardsman. A long, long time ago, Mr. Fox and the Clockwork Guardsman were good friends. Mr. Fox was a successful thief. The Clockwork Guardsman was, well, he was a guard. Clues in the name, isn't it? But that was a long, long time ago, of course. They're still good friends, though. That will never change, no matter their jobs or social status. The Clockwork Guardsman had always had a worry curled up inside him. And as the years passed and his mechanisms aged, that worry got bigger and bigger, like a balloon, and heavier, like a piglet. And it was always there, no matter how much he tried to shake it off, like Mr. Fox's lovely tail. It was a very worrying worry. So the Clockwork Guardsman told his good friend Mr. Fox of this concerning concern. I've already lived a very long time. I've met so many people and said goodbye to so many. I've learned the funniest jokes and lived through the saddest times. And then I've forgotten it all and lived through it again. Even though forgetting isn't easy for a machine such as myself, it all fades. Mr. Fox understood his friend's concerns and knew just what to suggest. If living such a long life makes you forgetful and jaded, perhaps it's time to die. It is time to die, and in doing so, to make your life real. But, my fluffiest of friends, the Clockwork Guard said, removing his alloy's guard cap and sighing. Didn't you steal death from us, from Miss Toad's dressing table in that heist many years ago? It caused quite the commotion, as I recall. And living things of the world all forgot how to die. As we all know, Miss Toad is Death's envoy, and the queen of all that is ugly, cold, and annoying. She guards the coldest jewel, death itself. I was so young then. I remember I was madly in love with Miss Jekyll, and I wanted to bring her the most expensive treasure I could find. And I succeeded, but she died. Death slipped from Miss Jekyll's hand and shattered on the ground. The fragments melted into the earth, never to be seen again. And as that happened, the creatures of the world started to die as normal once more. With all that should have been dead now being so, except that is for Mr. Fox, who should have died but didn't. His life dragged on. Death still exists in the world. All we need to do is search for it. And so Mr. Fox and the Clockwork Guardsman, furry paw in cold metal hand, left the city they called home to search for death in all the corners of the world. And they searched, and they searched, and they searched some more. They searched until Mr. Fox's beautiful red coat had turned white. They searched until the Clockwork Guardsman's pride and joy, his official guard badge, had rusted. Finally, they reached a place where Miss Toad lived. Miss Toad, called the guardsman as he knocked on the door. Miss Toad opened the door slowly and stretched out her warty, scabby hand. Lovely Miss Toad, I am so sorry to bother you again, said Mr. Fox as he took off his hat. But my good friend is in great pain, and you are the keeper of the only cure. Miss Toad is of course aware of how lovely she is, came a rasping voice from within the ramshackle hut. If your friend seeks death, he will not find it here. Life is not tea and death is not sugar. Their tastes cannot be distinguished if you live forever. But you have a mechanical heart and a mechanical tongue, and have tasted their flavor over and over. But during each cycle of activation and deactivation, Miss Toad removed her embroidered shroud to reveal the cold jewel called death, then extended a hand, beckoning to the Clockwork Guardsman. Come, young guard. Come, child. All must be tested, but do not admit defeat easily, my strong child. My maggots will not eat you.
my must will not grow on you. Whether your enemy is time or guilt, sadness or ennui, do not admit defeat easily, my child.
And with that, Miss Toad took the guard's metal hand and placed it lightly on the jewel called Death. And he saw how long in the future he would end. After countless years of hardships, a battered and beaten clockwork guardsman was thrown into the fires of the scrapping plant, to melt into a metallic ocean of millennia of waste. All those slow metal thoughts and hard metal ideas became swift and liquid. They evolved and combined and formed a new life. It was a glorious return for all metal life forms, making even the release of death fade in comparison. And so the clockwork guardsman saw the future and gave up his dreams of dying. His good friend, Mr. Fox, meanwhile withdrew his thieving hand and left the jewel where it was. Indeed, life encompasses more than just bitterness akin to tea. If he had a friend to accompany him through the hard times, what rush was there? He could steal this extraordinary jewel later. Later, as all children know, Mr. Fox and the clockwork guardsman lived long lives, until the little world they lived in was but a desert, until the sun went out, until the moon fell. And even then, this story didn't end. It lived on, passed from world to world. I would like to know the moral of that story. They just lived forever. I do like the penguin story, where they used to soar in space. It's pretty nice. Princess Malcote. Not sure how she made the mother cry, but whatever. Yes, I'm missing volume 1 of Robin versus Chesterton. Iridescent Brooch. Let's look that up. And that'll probably be my last book that I'll read. Seems to be underground. Behind Vitruvia, Quarterfontaine, Fleuve Cinder. Fleuve Cinder. Vitruvia. Yeah. I'll end it with this book because I don't want to read for too long. I'll just hurt my voice. Oh, right there. Hello. Hey, got an achievement. Nice. Oh, you know what? We'll just read it here. It's our usual tape. Taking my seats, huh? I sit next to the doglet. Alright. If I go on a stream more Genshin, then I'll probably look at the living beings and then do the equipment next. Actually, not equipment. Materials? Probably materials. Equipment will be last, if I even get to it. But I feel like I learned a lot more about Remuria now. Which is good, I guess. Okay. Robin versus Chesterton, Iridescent Brooch. An entertaining novel quite popular in Fontaine. It tells a story about the thief, Phantom Gentleman Phantomas Robin, and the famous detective Chesterton's first confrontation. Disclaimer: this is a work of fiction. Any similarities to persons living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. Alright, just have some more water first. Call me Poirot. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no mora in my purse, and nothing particular to interest me outside of the city, I traveled to the court of Fontaine and entered the care of my uncle, Chesterton, the famous private detective. To my surprise, he immediately tasked me with assisting him in tracing Robin, the mysterious phantom thief. The court should not be so deserted at midnight, and yet at this point in time, there was nary a person to be seen on the streets outside Mr. Pierre's mansion. Only the autumn night wind echoed beneath the cold moon like a lamenting harp. In the shadows, the police and journalists watched the well-lit mansion, a stone's throw away like hawks, waiting for the arrival of a certain esteemed guest. Like everyone else involved, I too was hidden in the shadow of a street corner. The long wait was beginning to bore me. This is taking too long. Will Robin really show up? The lady journalist from the Steambird seemed to hold a different opinion about this matter, and rebutted me immediately.
Of course he will. He sent a message ahead claiming that he shall steal that iridescent starstone brooch. He's not gonna go back on his word. The only question, really, is what sort of cool method he'll use to arrive at the scene this time.
Huh? You seem to be...
Of course I am. It would be more surprising for someone to not be enamored by the Phantom Thief. And just as the journalist was excitedly regaling me with tales of the rogue's great deeds, the clock struck midnight exactly. Suddenly, there was a great explosion, and the mansion lights died all at once. Before we could adapt to the sudden darkness, a great light blazed forth from the mansion window, rendering the night day for a few moments. Having recovered their sight, the police filed in and trailed after, stepping into Mr. Pierre's collection room. There was nothing on the dais. The iridescent starstone brooch was gone. Both the roars of rage and cries of dismay seemed washed out and meaningless in the face of this obvious truth. The hubbub of the crowd and the remnant sounds of the explosion formed a cacophonic mix that made my head hurt. There was nothing for me to do, so as my uncle instructed, I pretended to investigate the scene before returning home. Before I left, I heard the sound of a shutter behind me, and the lady journalist's most unprofessional gushing. Ah, the legendary Phantom Thief Robin makes yet another extravagant exit. A wonderful performance indeed.
Luckily, the crime scene was not far from my uncle's house. Maybe the uncle did it. The uncle is the Phantom Thief. Luckily, the crime scene was not far from my uncle's house, and I dragged my exhausted self back there. He did not react to my return, instead continued to read at his usual spot, just as always. I imagine that the Steambird's headline tomorrow will be quite alright. He don't seem worried at all. I hung my coat up, unfastened my collar button, and sank into a comfy spot on the sofa, before giving him the details of the incident. The explosion was not intended to destroy anything within the mansion, but to cover up a different part of the Phantom Thief's plan. He was hiding the sound of a Clockwork Mecha's movements underneath the loud sounds of the explosion. Clockwork Mecha? It'd be hard-pressed to escape with something that large, so it must have been ditched somewhere nearby. They may yet find some clues of it. It seems that this Robin is not as clever as claimed. Methinks we shall close the net around him soon.
There is no certain thing. Just as the explosion was only used to hide the sound of the clockwork mecha, the mecha itself could also be a little more than bait. Oh, this is so complicated. I ran my hands through my messy hair. And what about the brooch?
It's still in the mansion. My uncle paused for a second. All these tricks point to a single goal. Convincing everyone that the brooch is already gone. No one could ever imagine now that the stolen item is actually still on site. After that, all he needs to do is fabricate some identity that will grant him access to the mansion. In which case, he can swipe the brooch without raising any alarms.
Oh, maybe I did the voices wrong. Because the uncle actually knows what's going on. I see. What a cunning fellow.
My uncle stared at me with obvious interest, as if waiting for me to continue. Seeing that, I took a deep breath and started explaining my deductions.
As you have said, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So with your hypothesis in mind, everyone at the scene could be guilty, and in the worst case, everyone could be involved. Robin the Phantom Thief may, in fact, be a group rather than a person. I record everyone back there, trying to remember every trivial suspicious thing. Mr. LeBlanc from the Steambird is definitely an admirer of Robin. Well, I did examine her journalistic credentials, but forging identification papers should be easy for him. Mr. Chandler from the Maison Gardiennage left the scene for a time, and did not return until the theft had already happened. He was incredibly infuriated, but on further consideration that might also have been an act. Madame Christie, from the Marchese Phantom, has been stressing to everyone the probability of Robin using a clockwork mecha. Considering your hypothesis, this could in fact be a deliberate red herring.
Well, who do you think? Amongst all these people, who is the most likely to be the culprit? Having evaluated everyone for the possibility of guilt, I asked my uncle this question with much care.
You have keen eyes indeed.
My uncle put his pipe down and stood up, his steel cane glinting coolly in the moonlight.
However, you've missed something. Something most vital to the case. I was stunned for a moment.
He raised the cane.
You, the gentleman who came to see the uncle.
You, the gentleman who came to see the uncle he has never met, claiming to be Poirot, were in the crowd back then too. Am I not right, Mr. Robin?
I think I did the wrong voices wrong again. So it should have been Poirot or Robin. Well, who do you think amongst all these people is the likely culprit? And the uncle said, "You have keen eyes indeed."
You, the gentleman who came to see the uncle he has never met, claiming to be Poirot, were in the crowd back then too. Am I not right, Mr. Robin?
Claiming to be his nephew.
Forging a new identity. I don't even have a nephew called Poirot.
Oh wait, it's a damn detective novel that Paimon spoiled. It still got me though. Yeah, it's a pretty nice story. Good dang it, Paimon. You're talking to you, Paimon. Spoiling the story, how dare you?
Anyway, I'll do this my own time. The rest, achievements, Mortal Travails, Robin versus Chesterton. Nice. A double nice. Achievement Mariner. The hands of travelers have touched 10,000 streams. They all flow from the same font of the world's waters, and all return to the same sea. Oh. Feline Fortress. Event ending. Oh. And that is it. Well, yeah. Audible will continue next time as well. We'll have any more streams? Probably 2 more. Probably. Unless there's like an event that pops up for like, I don't know, for 4 days or whatever. At the very end. Now I might do that one. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed, and Peach, I guess. Peach.